afternoon, listeners, or whatever time it is when you're listening in here. Friends, colleagues, another great guest. We've got a gentleman all the way from Istanbul, from a company called Havas, and his name is Mete Erna.
Very good.
And Mete is the Assistant General Manager of Sales and Marketing. Mete, fantastic. Great to have you on board. Really appreciate you coming.
Thank you for the invitation. It's my pleasure.
No problem. Now, what I generally do is I ask people, why did you come on the podcast? But what I'm going to just say first is I understand you're a man who bought a boat with a hole in it. So
I didn't expect it to become an industry news, but it seems now.
But what we'll do is we'll keep that story, all right, and we'll jump in there and hopefully we'll bail you out once we
I hope so.
once we get into the background of that one. But firstly, thank you for coming on the podcast. Why did you agree to come on, or what was the motivation behind it?
I think we work in a very interesting industry. Not too many people knows about it. Actually, I'm now in ground handling since more than 20 years, and I still have difficulty to explain to my parents what kind of job it is. And I still have people coming to me asking, can you find us cheap tickets or free tickets around? So I think what you are doing at the moment is a good effort, and I think it can help, and I believe maybe I can help.
Yeah, no, and hopefully, and the main objective is to get to know the person behind the position, to give people who listen a different insight, and to see what common trends are, and then what we're going to do after we go through a series of podcasts is we're going to identify certain trends, certain subject matter, and then we're going to do a special series in them. Now, you just recently featured a very good article in the ARGS, okay, which is the Airline Routes and Ground Services magazine, and what a lovely picture on the front. I'm sure your wife's now got that by the side of the bed when you're away, huh?
That's not my first preference, but it's the highest resolution picture I had at the time.
It's a good picture. You look like a film star. Now, in the in the article, and I'm sure many people have read it already, but one of the things that people want to know about Istanbul is obviously the new airport.
Absolutely.
And I mean, firstly, you able to give us a few facts and figures about the airport, because I mean it's an incredible airport, and the future capacity is just.
It's projected to go up to a passenger capacity of 200 million passengers at some time in the future. It started up with 90 million passengers capacity. The terminal is the biggest passenger terminal under one single roof in the world at the moment. And so far, we didn't have any big crisis. We are happy with this startup. It opened up on 7th of April 2019. The first thing, it finished. It started operations. The second thing, we didn't have any big crisis during the startup. Baggage were delivered, aircraft were able to depart with their passengers, were able to fly with their baggage on board the aircraft. But obviously in a project of this size, even if everything goes well, you have maybe hundreds of small things popping up on day one. So everybody is still working on those. There are still things to sort out. But so far, we are happy with the first stage.
Yeah, no, I mean, I personally, I've heard nothing but good news, and I'm due to go down there shortly, so I'm looking forward to seeing the new airport. Now, your entire business, correct? You've moved to the new airport.
Our business in Atatürk Airport, the majority of it, yes, it moved to new airport, new Istanbul Airport. Atatürk Airport continues to have some aircraft traffic, mostly business jets and some freighter operation. But that is also planned to move to the new airport in the midterm.
Okay. Because I think I've got to say something now. Every time I've gone in and out of Istanbul, And thankfully, I've had the privilege of going into the business class. It's got to be one of the best business class lounges in the world.
It is bigger.
Incredible.
It's bigger than some airport terminals, actually.
Yeah.
This is how Turkish Airlines promoted it. And that's true, actually. I think it's one of the strongest aspects of Turkish Airlines product, and a good reason to choose them.
It's great. It caters for kids. You can have a game of snooker, pool. The food is incredible.
Food is incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. And they've replicated that now at the new airport, have they?
Yes. Actually, food, I think, is one of the strongest aspects of Turkish tourism industry as well. So it makes perfect sense for Turkish Airlines also to bring this strong aspect of Turkey to the front line of marketing.
Yeah, no, they've done a great job, and the product as well. The Turkish product is, I think, it's really, really good.
Also, my first preference.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's
and
absolutely super.
Since I'm responsible also for business development, also I feel lucky that we have an airline like Turkish Airlines, which connects so many countries with its network. So they offer direct flights to most places I need to fly as part of my business development responsibility.
Yeah, no, it's superb. Now, how did you actually get into the industry? I mean, most of us, we fell into it by chance, or living near an airport, or everybody's got a story how they came in.
Exactly.
What's yours? How did you get into the industry?
Well, I don't know if it is related but I remember when I was a young boy, I sometimes dreamt of being a pilot. So somehow I kept this interest, and there was an opportunity when Havas was privatized in 1995. They were looking for young people with skills and who were willing to enter the industry. So I took the opportunity, and I found myself in the commercial department after 1 year. I think it somehow suited my education, which was in international relations, political science. And I felt I was being useful. I was feeling happy with what I was doing, and I felt part of it. So it continued like this. And when I speak with my colleagues sometimes, somehow I realize people in the ground handling industry, in my experience, somehow were always interested to become pilots at some point of their life. Maybe we are the people who wanted to fly one day, but we ended up being airport people.
Yeah, no. Yeah, everybody's got a story. Now, when you came in, can you remember anybody who mentored you or helped you or coached you? And
yeah, definitely. We were a small team of 4 people doing the contracts with the airlines, and I had my manager there, Mete, who today is managing TAV Georgia, Tbilisi and Batumi Airport project.
Okay.
He's CEO of those airports. Another colleague was Miss Yeşim Uçak. She helped me a lot, not only with the technical aspects of the business, but with my language skills as well. She was a very good teacher. I still remember them very nicely.
Oh, it's nice. It's always good, and what we do is we keep a little wall of fame, a little album of people that are mentioned. So
I think it's worth to mention also the experience we had as Havas colleagues when Swissport was our partner. They became partner of Havas in 1997, and they remained there until 2007. And the change and development they brought to the company at that time through Hans-Rudi Moser, Jean-Didier Savio, it was, I think, remarkable, and it left a lot of positive things with the colleagues, and a lot of people have developed to become important people in the industry coming out of that team.
That's good. That's good. That's a good little boost for Swissport as well. Yeah, no, good. Now, so how many years? 20?
No, it's over 20 years in the industry, yes.
Over 20 years. At what point did you wake up one morning and think to yourself, do you know something? I'm in the industry that I love. I'm in the industry that I always wanted to be.
I think that was when I returned to Havas in 2014 after leaving Havas, working 10 years. I worked with Swissport in Singapore. Then I returned. Meanwhile, I was completing my studies. I finished my master's degree, started my PhD, which eventually I left. I worked with Çelebi, and I had the chance to get involved in their projects in India. Then I worked for 1 year in Saudia Cargo in Istanbul. And then there was an offer, and I returned to Havas. And I have found myself also developed during that process. So again, I felt useful and able to contribute to the job. And I still have the same feeling about what I do in Havas.
No, it's good. And if you love what you do, it makes it a lot easier, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, children. You've got 2 children, yeah?
Yeah.
And I'm going to try and pronounce them now. So
Good luck.
Ekin.
Very good.
Yeah. And Duru.
Perfect.
Yeah. And your wife, Denise.
Yes.
Denise.
That's also very good.
Denise, yeah. Now the 3 girls. How do you balance your working life with obviously giving them a lot of TLC and time?
Well, actually, the way to balance is only I mostly work and spend all the remaining time with them. I don't have too much else to do. I had doing something, but after the girls, actually, all the remaining time out of work is now being spent with them. And I try my best to do this because I know after a few years, even if you run after them, they will have their own time and they will not be interested to spend more time with you. Maybe it's a blessing from that point of view that the sailing boat I bought has a hole in it at the moment. So I'm not in a hurry to fix it.
So come on, and we got to learn the story and have the girls all got their own buckets, yeah?
No, first they need the courage to get on the boat first.
So what happens? We got to find out now.
I had a sailing boat almost 15 years ago. I like very much the hobby, but it requires too much time. So eventually I sold my sailing boat, and when we moved to our new home a couple of years back, which is close to the seaside, it's a little village outside Istanbul.
Yep.
I wanted something which I can easily launch to the sea and pull back and enjoy also alone when I need.
Yep.
And I found this 5-meter fiberglass British-made sailing boat, but it was quite old, and by the time I bought it, it was end of the season, so it was already out of the sea. I had it transported, I had it maintained, but when we put to the sea, I realized it's not sailing as it's supposed to. So I was lucky that I realized there is something wrong, and we returned on time. And when we opened the hole, it was liters of water coming out of it. So I have a very good friend who runs a sailing school in the place. He takes care of the boat, and we try all the options before we throw it away.
Is it going to be hitting the water again, or is it not salvageable?
We are about to see. I think this summer we'll give the answer. At worst case, we will throw the hull and we will use the mast to build a catamaran, a hobby cat out of it, maybe.
Oh, so at least you got a good backup plan, huh?
So we will try to use whatever is left out of it.
So I'm just thinking. One of the things that I do with everybody is I try and come up with a name for a book, if it was their biography. So I'll have to have a little think there now. Now, as far as the way you've seen the markets develop in especially in Istanbul, and we all know the other parties. How have you seen the business develop over the last few years? What have been the really good things about the way the business has changed?
I mean, Turkey has been in a very good trend during the last 10 years. But the terrorist activities in 2016 and then the following coup attempt and similar things, unfortunately, had a negative effect. But today we see after 2-3 years, now we are growing again. Actually, we expect to have our best year in terms of passenger numbers in Turkey.
Really? Yeah.
Leisure traffic is growing very strongly.
Into and terminate in Turkey?
All in Turkey.
Yeah.
I mean, in Turkey as Havas, we are present in 28 airports now. So Istanbul is only a part of our operation. We are doing much more than that. Besides our operations in Medina and in Riga airports, we have a big operation, around 4,000 people working for Havas, and we expect very good results by the end of this year if everything goes well.
Okay, well, wish you luck. What's your biggest headache or your biggest problem area that you have to address?
Well, in Antalya, the biggest leisure airport in Turkey, last year we had difficulty to recruit staff because it's a seasonal traffic. Hotels and all the other places, everybody needs people to work. And when you have a hotel to work under air condition with a nice suite, you don't like to come to load baggage to an aircraft at 40 degrees. So that's, I think, the biggest challenge. Of course, getting used to the operation in new Istanbul airport will take time. Airport is a little bit remotely positioned from the city center. Public transportation is done only with passenger buses and taxis at the moment. But the underground metro is on the way. It will come towards the end of this year.
Oh, really? As well?
Yeah, it's already under construction. So we have this 1 year period where we have to try our best to run the operation smoothly. And by next year, I think new Istanbul airport also will start growing much strongly.
That's going to be a fantastic addition, isn't it? IT, technology, you mentioned in the article that ground handlers need to be delicate when investing in technology. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, the companies I worked for were involved in many technological improvements, softwares, hardwares, new projects. Most of them are fancy things also when they bring them to you. And you have big dreams, you have your vision. But I think it's very important that to run the project properly and to apply that technology at the right time, at the right place. I was involved in very successful projects, but I was involved also in projects which eventually failed.
Yeah.
So I think coming from that experience, what I mean is, it doesn't mean all technology is good technology or it's good for you. It doesn't mean that. You have to choose carefully.
Yep.
And you have to run the project very carefully and delicately.
Yes, exactly. And have good people project managing and also a good technical mix with the practical side as well, because sometimes the theory can be a little bit too up in the air.
Exactly. I mean, I'm very proud to share when it comes. As Havas, we shifted to SAP ERP system in 2004. It's now 15 years. And when I came back to the company, I have seen that the system was still there. It was strong. It was working as if it was established just yesterday. So it shows it was a good project. I think that would be a good example to everyone. But you know, what made it successful? I think SAP didn't bend in front of our pressure, in front of our way of doing business or doing our job. They put their way also. Yeah. So it was a good combination. We learned from each other, from their processes, but they adapted also partly to our specialized processes.
Yep.
So it was a good mix, and it works
Okay.
when it is done like this.
No, very good. And another point that you put in the article was to do with mergers, acquisitions, opportunities in new markets.
Yes.
Are you able to?
Havas is part of TAV Airports Group. TAV is one of the biggest airport development and operation companies in the world.
Yeah.
And now one of our shareholders is ADP, Aéroport de Paris, Paris Airports Company. So it's a very strong combination. Yeah. And TAV from the beginning supported its service companies like Havas for development. And not only by following the footsteps of TAV, following TAV in their airports, but also independently improving the business. So we are trying to serve the purpose of TAV in that respect also. In my experience, since more than 20 years, ground handling industry is consolidating.
Yep.
It is still very fragmented after 20 years, but there is a very big deal of consolidation already done. We expect this to happen, and we see that the companies who grow up in the market in the ground handling industry have been the ones choosing acquisition rather as the path to the growth. And we have support from our shareholders in that respect. So besides following up new license tenders, we are also focusing on acquisition opportunities. Those can be through the locations where TAV is already doing a business. It can be locations where we pursue as separate opportunities. But I think besides Havas path of growth, I think this is where the industry will be going in the midterm. Somehow it will continue to consolidate, and this will happen through acquisitions mostly.
Okay, very good. Yeah, well, an obvious step. You said you were in Saudi for a little while.
True.
Did you get over to the kingdom?
Yes, a couple of times, and also now I'm.
So you're now there because of the Havas business. And
yes, in Medina as well.
Yeah. It's a nice airport. Huh?
It is. It is the first private airport privatization project in Saudi Arabia, and it was a successful one.
Yeah, nice terminal.
We hope it will follow. It is very nice.
No, it's good. Good concessions inside as well. It's very nice. So how many times did you manage to get to the kingdom?
Now I forgot the number of travels I made there, but I can tell you one passport book. I had to spare it for my travels over there because they don't give you easily long-term visas. So every time 3-month visa, it consumed all the free pages on the passport book.
Yeah. And how did you find the kingdom? Because obviously, for people, well, there's not that many people. You can't just wake up in the morning and decide to go there for a holiday. So it's a privilege to be able to witness and experience the country.
Well, we were involved also for the second license tender for Jeddah, Riyadh, and Dammam airports a couple of years ago. So I had the chance to see also different parts of the country. Obviously, it's very hot.
It is indeed,
and not always very humid.
Yeah.
But I find it, you still see the local people living with their traditions, with their local clothing. It's not something you see everywhere now in the world. When you see too many places around the world, in Europe, maybe in US, after some time everything seems similar. Places like India, like Saudi Arabia, where you can still witness and experience the local way of life, I think is very valuable.
Yeah, no, I do. I must admit, I've spent 5 years in Saudi now and met some lovely people, some incredible people, and seen some things that I never ever would have imagined I'd have seen when I was back in school and growing up where I grew up. So I feel it's a privilege. It's been absolutely fantastic. As far as opportunities now to make a mark or to do something different and attending these conferences, what value do you get from these conferences?
I think gaining experience from the other ground handlers is very valuable.
Yeah.
Because it's you don't have to discover America again, as we say.
Exactly, exactly.
There are a lot of people who have been through similar problems we had.
Yep.
And they have their way, they have their solutions. I think it's a great opportunity for that. Also, it's a perfect place to meet so many of your current and potential customers, listen to them,
Yep.
understand what they want, cut business deals even sometimes. And that's the only opportunity where you can find all these things together.
Yep.
It's only through a conference, an exhibition like this where you can bring all this together and so many people from the industry.
Yep, yep. And do you think there's enough sharing? Or do you think, there's a lot of protectionism and people just wanting to guard and hide, the positive things they do and not talk about the things that are giving them a bit of trouble?
I don't think there is so much hiding. I think good practices are being constantly shared because also it's good publication for the people who bring this up. It's a good marketing tool, promoting what you do good, what you do.
It's confidence.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No, I think everybody, there should be a lot more of it. And it's like anything. It's like if you're running a race, it's far better to be in the front looking back.
Exactly.
Than at the back looking forward and trying to catch up. So I think it should be encouraged. And that's one of the things that, these conferences, they should do and they should continue to focus on. I think it's
Absolutely.
excellent. Yeah, it's excellent. Training.
Right.
Big subject matter with Havas?
No, we believe we are managing it quite well, but it's a challenge. You know what's the challenge? I think when we discuss with our colleagues from time to time, in the end, I find myself thinking about this very specific thing. We have so much information.
Yep.
Pages of information. You can make a huge encyclopedia out of it. But it's impossible for simple officers or workers or a flight coordinator to know all this. So I think we need to come over out of the way of doing traditional trainings. We need better tools to bring this to a pill.
Yeah.
And have it swallowed by the employees easily.
Yeah. More apps, small modules, bit by bit.
Absolutely, and I see no other way than technology to bring this improvement.
Yeah.
Also, this is where you can make a difference now. Yeah. Otherwise, everybody is doing the same.
Yeah, and the costs, the repeat costs, and the wasted time.
Exactly.
Some people and with no impact or effect on what they do when they come back after the training.
Absolutely, and the labor markets. The generation change.
Yep.
We will have more turnover with this stuff, we know. Yep. So we will need more repeating trainings, more new trainings. So we need this improvement in the training processes, I believe.
100%.
I hope sometime it will come, but it should be based on technology. So probably it will not come from a ground handling company, but maybe with in a partnership between a ground handling company and a technology company. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think you're definitely right there. Now, if you take now your daughters, and they see you, Dad, they know the industry you're working in, and especially your wife. If I was to ask her and say, wow, what would he like to do now differently, from their opinion, or especially from your wife's opinion, what do you think they'd say? What do you think she'd say?
About what I would like to.
Yeah, but what you'd like to do if it was your world. If you had a magic wand and you could just say, right, I'm going to do this now. What changes do you think you'd like to make?
I will answer with a small story if you like. We had in our culture this Islamic schools where some people remained at those schools, and like in Buddhism, they trained themselves to dedicate themselves to Allah, to the God only.
Yep.
in one story, there are these pupils, students in that religious school who study, who concentrate, meditate, and there is their master. Their master periodically make an exam on them and ask them each time, if you were the God, what would you like to change? And everybody tells something, and the master says, okay, go back to school, 6 more months, 1 more year, whatever. At one point, one of the students during the exam answers, everything is in order. I wouldn't change anything. The master leaves that pupil to go out to life. I think that's the correct answer. It's not my answer, but when I heard about this story and I heard about it, I tend to think everything is like this for a reason. So probably it's better not to try to change too much. You know what they say, knowing what you can change and what you cannot change is one of the biggest wisdoms you can have for your life.
Yeah. And if you can do, and if you can't, let it go.
Right.
Yeah, no, exactly. A little bit like the hole in the boat, eh? I still think that's incredible. Like that. I love it. Apart from the fact that you said it was British built.
Yes.
Yeah.
A Topper 16, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe someone in the audience would know the brand.
Well, yeah, I'm sure they would. Now, another thing. So if you weren't in this industry, what would you do? What would you like to do?
In this industry?
No, if you weren't.
Out of this industry.
Out of this industry. What would have been your second choice? Or
My second choice was to become an archaeologist.
Oh, really?
Yes. But I thought probably I would have difficulty to feed my family. So I took the opportunity coming from the industry.
Yeah, no, true enough. Now, another thing that I ask a lot of people, just to get, an idea of what you've got as interests or what you'd like to do. Bucket list. Everybody talks about a bucket list. What have you got on yours?
I think buy a caravan and make a world tour with my wife.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that'd be...
If we can be healthy enough by the time our girls grow up to live alone.
That'd be good, huh?
Yeah.
And any particular countries that you'd put on the the top 6 that you'd love to visit?
I already visited, but you can never have enough of Italy, if you ask me.
Italy, yeah, no, beautiful.
It's an open-air museum. It never ends.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, huh?
Absolutely.
The culture, the style, the food, the people. Yeah. Even when they shout at you, it sounds lovely, doesn't it? It's a great language.
Every city is different. Every city gives you something.
Yeah. And what's your favorite place to go? Obviously,
in Italy.
In Italy, yeah.
I would say Rome.
Rome, yeah.
Yes, maybe it's because also there are a lot of parallels with Istanbul, my home city, the place I was born. Historically also they are very related. Maybe I'm a little bit biased on that, I can say. I would say Rome.
Yeah, no, Rome, beautiful. I've been to see the rugby there so many times, and it's one of the best places to go. I'd say Rome and Dublin, absolutely fantastic. Now, as far as similarities, Istanbul has changed phenomenally, huh? Even in the city with the buildings, the way the buildings have been refurbished.
It's now a 16 million people metropolitan. Huge, It's huge. We are having the difficulties coming out of this as well. Traffic, despite all the infrastructure investments, it's still an issue. Too many buildings. Now we start to realize also that's not always a good thing. Turkish economy was also very dependent on construction industry as well. Now we understand we have to focus a little bit more on alternatives, find a different path. I was one of the persons, despite being born in Istanbul and being a very fond person of the city, also because I was partly working as a tourist guide when I was studying. Despite all that, in the end, I decided to go out of the city with my family because the burden of living in Istanbul, sometimes is unbearable, I can say. Being a tourist is a very good thing, but going through this every day, sometimes it consumes. So now at least I'm happy with my weekends.
That's. I mean, that's to a degree it happens in most places, but it's just such a huge city now.
It is.
It's incredible,
and
the river.
Yeah, remain the Bosphorus.
Yeah. Well, yeah. For me, it's a river. It's like the Thames. Yeah, but it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's something unique, actually. I don't know if there are any cities in the world which sit on two different continents, Asia and Europe at the same time. Actually, millions of people are changing continents every day in Turkey, going between work and home. It's something really unique. And you find, actually yesterday, I met someone from a IT company from the industry, and he was asking me a good book about Istanbul. So I have found a good book for him about Istanbul history, and the name is The Tale of Three Cities. Actually, Istanbul is not only one city. It was a Roman city, it was a Greek, Byzantine city, and it was a Muslim city, and it was always a capital of an empire.
Yeah.
So it makes it unique, definitely.
No, it is. It's I like I say, I love going there. I've got great memories, fantastic times. And like I say, one particular fella that was living there, an Irish fella, Ray Hazley. My God, I've had some good times with him over there. It's fantastic. Now, just another little question for you, as far as what the next 5-6 years has for you. Yeah, what do you think is going to change in 5 years? What if we were lucky enough to have a follow-up podcast like this and look back and say how good was the forecast? What do you think will happen in the next 5 years within the industry?
Well, I think more consolidation, definitely.
Yeah.
Some smaller ground handling companies probably will disappear.
Yeah.
I will be very happy to see Havas to develop to a more global ground handling company, not a very big global company maybe, but a key player in some regions of the world in ground handling industry. I also wonder what will happen with the airline industry, because it's going through a change. This fight between the airlines who have big capital and the low-cost carrier who are very efficient in what they do, and they are killing the legacy carriers. I think it remains to be seen, but that will be very important also for our industry, where this competition brings the aviation.
Yeah. And some of the things that are happening now with all the global uncertainty and the protectionism with the USA, China, and all these trade wars. I mean, I just do not understand why we keep, every time something seems to go well, something else crops up. It's always, it's crazy, huh?
It's incredible indeed.
Yeah, no, it's madness. Now, is there anything you'd like to ask me?
Well, actually, I wonder how you ended up working for Saudi Airlines.
How did I end up?
Yeah, just at the time I was leaving the company for Havas.
Yeah, no. Yeah, we must have missed each other just by about 3 or 4 months.
I think so.
Yeah, no. How did I end up? I've actually spent the last 10, 11 years in the Middle East, and I worked for Etihad. Then I went to Qatar. And then I left Qatar, and then I was approached, and I was lucky enough to be offered a position at the Los Angeles World Cargo Symposium. It was, and it's somewhere I love going to different places. So I've worked all over the world, and one of the things that I never say too quickly is no. I'd be more likely to say why not. You know, I always think that's the right answer. Give it a go, see what it's like. And like I said, I've had five incredible years. I've had, don't get me wrong, I've had certain frustrations and oh my God moments, but I wouldn't have swapped it for the world. And I've learned so much, so many different things, and I've seen so many different things. It's probably one of the best things that I've done in my career, to be honest.
Well, I feel also very lucky for having worked for the company. In the short period of 1 year, I made very good friendships. I learned a lot also about by working for an airline for once in my entire career. And if you see him, pass my best regards to Amer Abu Obeid, who was my superior when I was working for Saudi Cargo.
No, I'll definitely, he's a
great guy.
Yeah,
he's a great
character.
person.
Yeah, he's full of passion and emotion, and
absolutely
very engaged. And
his ownership about the companies was exemplary for me.
Yeah, no, he's a good guy. Great sense of humour.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good family. He's back in the kingdom now.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he was in Germany for a while, so I'll definitely do that for you. And we're coming near to the end of it now. Have you thought about the title that your book would be, or what I'd give it?
When I started doing PhD, one of my colleagues was asking me, why you are doing it? You already have a career. Why you are spending all this? So I was telling, I invest in myself. And her answer was, okay, then when you die, we will put on the tombstone saying, dead investment.
That's, do you know something? You've just, I'm just going to add that now to what I was going to say. And that's a real good one, actually.
Indeed.
I'm going to add that to what I had. Definitely. And I'll tell you that in a minute. Now, I just want to ask you one more thing. If I was to ask your wife what music, if she put on anywhere, anytime, would make you want to get up, have a little move, a groove, do the little dad dance steps, what would it be?
Well, maybe some Caucasian folk music.
Yeah.
Because I have in my blood a little bit of Caucasian blood from southwest Russia, Cherkezia, actually. Yeah. I think that can be the only music, actually, which can make me dance, probably.
Yeah.
But nothing else.
And you've done that many times, I'm sure.
A couple of times, let's say.
Okay, maybe we'll be lucky enough to get that on video one night. Huh? Maybe tonight.
I hope not.
No, thanks very, very much. The title of the book, I think now, would be Dead Investment, What Hole? I think that's...
can be a very good book.
Yeah, no, I think it's not very often you meet somebody who says straight away that they bought a boat with a hole in it. So fair play to you. I really appreciate that. Listen, thank you very, very much for your time. Really, really appreciate it. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's lovely to see the man behind the photograph and learn a little bit more. And if anybody wanted to get hold of you, how would they do so?
Well, our email address on Havas website, salesandmarketing@havas.net, is open for all messages.
Okay, brilliant. And I look forward to seeing you in Istanbul. And obviously we'll see you tonight at the function.
Thank you very much. Let me know if you ever come to Istanbul. I will give you a tour of the city.
I will. I will indeed. Don't worry.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and the pleasure is fully mine.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.